Hi, everyone. Let's talk about the dynamics of growth. When you think about personal growth, I would define it something like this. Growth equals agency plus grit. Agency plus grit. We're going to spend the next few minutes unpackaging both of these words and talking about how they impact your growth. Agency is defined as the sense of being a cause rather than being an effect. You are a cause. You can act upon some things in your life. Stephen Covey talked about us living within two circles. The first circle is the circle of concern. These are the things that we care about in our life. There may be things that we're worried about. And within this circle of concern, there are some things that we can influence. There are things within our circle of concern that we can influence and things that we can't. Where should we put our focus? When we focus on things that we cannot influence, ironically, our area of influence begins to shrink. Whereas if we focus on our areas of influence, things that we can actually affect, you begin to practice your God-given agency and you begin to influence your areas of concern. As time goes by, our circle of influence will grow, and not only will we be able to improve ourselves, but the circumstances of others and our environment as well. In the helpful book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, he points out this graph. And he says, this is the pathway up here, the upper curve, this is the pathway to impact, either positive or negative. You could talk about it in terms of success or failure. In Hemingway's, one of his novels, two characters are talking, and they ask the question, how did you go bankrupt? And the other person says, two ways, gradually and then suddenly. This curve represents this downfall, this bankruptcy. Have you ever noticed someone who seemed to have a breakthrough or a sudden failure? It looks something like this area down here, a sudden success, a sudden failure from the outside. But from the inside, this bankruptcy or this failure, this success was a long time coming. In the book, it talks about this principle, 3 to 5 years. We overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 year. People always have these New Year's resolutions, thinking this year I'm going to accomplish this. But the problem is we overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 year. However, on the other hand, we underestimate what we can accomplish in 3 to 5 years. If we continue making small, incremental, daily changes in the right areas, we will see progress in our lives. Now, let's say if I cover up the right side of this graph, see what happens? The upper curve and the lower curve, after halfway through this process, there's very little difference. This can be illustrated in my desire to stay healthy and maintain my weight, which is a struggle for me. I need to learn to focus on things that are easy to do and things that are easy not to do. I should not focus on things that are difficult to do. Like, for example, maybe if I fast for 3 days, I can lose a lot of weight. That's not very sustainable. I don't like fasting. My body doesn't like fasting. Rather, it's choosing to focus on small changes that are easy to do and easy not to do. For example, two of my favorite snacks, donuts and apples. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to have a snack. It's easy for me to choose an apple over a donut. It's also easy not to do. It's not a big deal. And if I do choose the donut, is that really going to destroy my health? I can have a donut, and I haven't gained a lot of weight. My blood sugar is still within control. Let's say that I do it 2 days in a row. Have I destroyed my health? No. Let's say that I do it over a week. Have I destroyed my body? No. How about a month? Every day, if I choose a donut over an apple, what's happened? My blood chemistry is beginning to change. My metabolism is beginning to change. 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years of making this small choice to not eat an apple, but to eat a donut has begun to erode my health. Well, by 3 to 5 years, it's significantly eroded that. On the other side, if I can choose daily this easy-to-make choice of choosing an apple over a donut, I will see this kind of results. This is about agency, finding things within my control, within my sphere of influence, and keeping at them daily. Well, 3 to 5 years is a long time. How are we going to get through that? Well, that's where it comes to the second word, grit. Angela Duckworthy, in her very helpful book by the same title of Grit, points out that grit is dogged, tough resourcefulness and sustained perseverance applied to our long-term goals. Sustained perseverance. Living in Japan, I love collecting these Japanese proverbs. One of them is sitting on a rock for 3 years. Choosing one thing and choosing to focus on it, to continue on it for 3 years. The Japanese often say, continuing lends to power. This tenacity, this grit is what has made the Japanese culture so effective. On the other side, they have this proverb that goes a little bit like this. 3-day priest, mikabozu. That's it, 3-day priest. What in the world could 3-day priest mean? Well, it means someone who makes a big decision to become a Buddhist priest. I'm going to commit myself to become a priest. But 3 days later, they decide to give up and go back to their hometown. In Japan, if someone sees someone that commits to something and doesn't follow through or quickly gives up, they say mikabozu, another 3-day priest. So I want to challenge you, as you think about your goals, do you have this tenacity? Do you have this grit? Well, let's talk about how do you actually grow in grit. Well, someone said 80% of life is just showing up. People who are not present have no influence. Have you ever thought about that? The people who are influential are the people who are there. This also goes to my goals. If I want to get in shape, I can't directly affect the shape of my body, but I can choose to go to the gym every day. I find if I get to the gym, I'm going to work out. The fight is just getting me in my workout gear and getting to the gym. Growing in grit speaks to showing up to the place and doing work. Second is commit to the long haul. Have a long-term perspective in mind. And third, this is where it gets painful, practice integrity. There's no shortcuts here. Someone said integrity is doing the thing you said you were going to do long after the mood you said it has left you. Yes, our moods are temporary. Our emotions are temporary. They come and go. Our motivation comes and goes. But integrity is the ability to do the thing that you said you were going to do long after the mood has left you. Lastly, important in this issue of grit and tenacity is we must make peace with our temporary failures and setbacks. We must make peace with these things. Let's talk about 1927. 1927, 3 records are in the record book, and I think you'll be interested in this. Can you guess whose name is in the record book? Almost 100 years ago now. Home runs, Babe Ruth. 60 home runs in one season. Amazing. On-base percentage. He was on base almost 50% of the time. He almost always made it to base. But look at his third record, strikeouts. Babe Ruth led the league in strikeouts. Failures. He failed more than anyone else. He succeeded more than anyone else, and he failed more than anyone else. How do we put those together? Well, the Babe said himself, he said, every strike brings me closer to my next home run. I think it was Wayne Gretzky who said the same thing. He said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. If you're afraid of failure, you will never take risks and you will never succeed. This is part of this inner grit and agency. Winston Churchill pointed out, success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. When I first read this, I thought it was a typo. I thought it should be going from failure to success without losing enthusiasm, but that's just not the way life is. Often it's going from failure to failure. That's the only way for me to have success and not losing my enthusiasm. Our mood may change, but I have a tenacity. I have an inner grit that allows me to get back up again and try. The scriptures speak to the same truth. For though a righteous man falls 7 times, they rise again. Have you failed 7 times in the same area and risen again? That's an aspect of being a faithful follower of God and having hope in a God who controls our environment. So thanks for the chance to wrestle with this together. And I'd like to just challenge you to think about your growth. Do you focus on, in your agency, do you focus on the things you have control over? Or do you spend your time focusing on things that you cannot control? And then secondly, have you cultivated an inner grit, a tenacity, an integrity that will allow you to rise again even when you fail? Thanks.